Hey guys, thanks for checking in on the NFN Radio News Podcast, brought to you by Not Fake News.biz. I'm Bob Gaddy, editor and publisher of Not Fake News. Not Fake News contributing writer Chris Waldron has some pointed comments to make about today's Republican Party. In this blog from notfakenews.biz, which I narrate, Waldron puts the GOP's current decline into the darkness of Trumpism into perspective, noting that cowardice is nothing new for many Republican politicians. He brings back the memories of Richard Nixon and Watergate, and Senator Joe McCarthy and his Red Scare crusade against communism as examples, and brings it all into focus with the January 6th insurrection and the Republicans' current effort to rewrite that ever-so-recent history. Take a listen to The Party of Cowards by Chris Waldron from notfakenews.biz. So you want to join the Republican Party? Just leave your spine at the door. Republicans are the party of cowards. They are so afraid of offending their fearless leader that they deny the facts, refuse to take action, and even go against the best interest of those who put them in their positions of power. With each passing day, they do more and more to reinforce this perception. Take the recent vote on the formation of a commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection. Despite numerous concessions made by the Democratic and Republican sponsors of the bill, a majority of Republicans refused to vote for it. And with Republicans in the Senate already voicing opposition, it's likely dead on arrival when it comes up for a vote, effectively killing what was going to be a bipartisan commission. The 35 Republicans who voted in favor of establishing a commission will no doubt face retribution similar to that meted out to those who voted in favor of impeachment. Despite lacking a social media presence, Donald Trump can still issue official statements. He wasted no time calling those who dared to cross him ineffective and weak, hinting there would be consequences when they each come up for re-election. Mind you, this was only to establish a commission, not to accuse anyone. While arm twisting to get your members to vote along party lines is the norm for both parties, Republicans have taken it to a new level. Fear, intimidation, threats, lies, and even censure have been used to force those who disagree to fall in line. Those GOP politicians who are safe politically, as well as those who cowardly follow those who echo Trump's lies to satisfy his base, feel comfort in the numbers, despite overwhelming facts that disagree with their position. This is nothing new. There is history of this kind of behavior throughout the storied history of the Republican Party. Following the Civil War, Republicans sought to punish those who took part in that insurrection. They used the image of a bloody shirt to represent the lives lost during the war as a means of stifling opposition and bringing those in their own party in line. Waving the bloody shirt implied that those the comments were being directed towards were somehow responsible for those deaths. Anyone so accused risked fighting back at their own peril. In the modern context, waving the bloody shirt was used by conservative media to imply that a nation under Joe Biden's leadership would be one of bloodshed and countless rioting. They used images of the Black Lives Matter movement to frighten and intimidate voters during the 2020 presidential election. They ignored the fact that these riots were taking place during the Trump administration, when law and order were supposed to be the way of things. Conversely, Republicans have accused Democrats of waving the bloody shirt when they referred to the January 6th insurrection. They claim that Democrats are attempting to sow division by continuing to bring up the past. They fail to see the irony in their stance as Republicans continue to push the big lie, and as yet another recount of the votes in Arizona to seek to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Before the current abomination, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, a Republican from California, rose to prominence. There was another McCarthy who used fear and intimidation to keep his party faithful in line. Using the chairmanship of the heretofore relatively unknown House Un-American Activities Committee as a springboard, Wisconsin GOP Senator Joe McCarthy destroyed the lives of countless Americans by smearing them with the mere accusation that they may have some tenuous affiliation with a communist entity. The Red Scare sought to root out the supposed den of communist sympathizers who purportedly infested the American government, as well as the entertainment industry. Republicans were only too happy to allow McCarthy's attacks to continue when it was making these claims against the Democratic president, Harry Truman. It was only when Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower took office that McCarthy started to experience pushback. When McCarthy attacked members of the United States Army intelligence, calling a highly decorated officer a disgrace to his uniform, the attorney representing Joseph N. Welch fired back with the famous retort, "Have you no sense of decency?" That effectively ended the hearings. After 4 years in the limelight, McCarthy was censured for his remarks. Losing his influence, McCarthy's health rapidly declined, and he died 3 years later. The term witch hunt initially referred to the Salem witch trials in colonial Massachusetts. Its use of unsubstantiated accusations became synonymous with the actions of McCarthy and his henchman, Roy Cohn. It was later misappropriated by Donald Trump to refer to any number of investigations into alleged improprieties by the Trump administration. Roy Cohn, yes, that Roy Cohn, was Trump's original fixer, and Trump became a student of many of Cohn's underhanded political tactics. With the infamy afforded the Watergate scandal, it would be easy to assume that Richard Nixon was the most hated president in history. After all, anything with even a hint of political scandal has been tagged with the "gate" suffix. Pizzagate, Obamagate. So it may come as a shock that prior to the explosive revelations of the Watergate scandal, Nixon was immensely popular. In fact, he trounced the Democratic nominee, Hubert Humphrey, in the 1968 presidential election and totally crushed George McGovern in 1972, winning re-election by taking 49 out of 50 states, a heretofore unheard-of margin. Nixon ran on a law and order campaign, with his war on drugs becoming the centerpiece of his re-election bid. His policies, which were later embraced by Ronald Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan's laughable Just Say No initiative, led to an explosion of minorities being jailed for relatively minor offenses and increasingly harsher punishment. Nixon had a notoriously contentious relationship with the media, particularly those on the left. He labeled them the enemy long before Donald Trump, and took every opportunity to belittle those who took an opposing view to moves made by his administration, including Vice President Spiro Agnew's famously labeling them nattering nabobs of negativism. So it's more than ironic that it was the media that ultimately led to Nixon's downfall. In their book, All the President's Men, intrepid Washington Post reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein detailed how they painstakingly investigated the Watergate break-in and the surrounding corruption of the Nixon White House. It was this investigation and subsequent revelations of obstruction of justice and abuse of power that led to Nixon's resignation. Until the existence of recordings of White House misdeeds was revealed, Republicans were all too willing to allow Nixon's misdeeds to go unpunished. His use of dirty tricks used to sabotage the campaigns of his Democratic opposition earned him the nickname Tricky Dick. Even as a special prosecutor was appointed, Nixon's popularity remained high with Republicans. It was only when these recordings were revealed, the so-called smoking gun of the Watergate scandal, that Republicans began to turn on Nixon. It was only when it became apparent that he would be impeached that Nixon made the decision to resign, marking the first time in American history that a president left office in disgrace. There are many memorable dates from the past 100 years that will go down in infamy. Among them are December 7, 1941, September 11, 2001, and now January 6, 2021. While few are around who remember the attack on Pearl Harbor, all but the current generation have memories of September 11th etched in our brains. And there are few among us who do not recall the events of January 6th, unless you're a Republican member of Congress. Their selective amnesia in attempts to rewrite or whitewash the events of that day spit in the face of reality. Republicans are so afraid of losing their seats that they're willing to overlook a deliberate attempt to overthrow the government. They're willing to permit the continuance of the big lie while accusing Democrats of living in the past because they want an investigation into the events of January 6th. Instead of holding Donald Trump accountable, they would rather distract from the issues by demanding that investigations into Black Lives Matter be included in the formation of any commission, despite the fact BLM had zero to do with the insurrection. They are nothing less than cowards, refusing to accept facts. Instead, they will continue to support lies and conspiracy theories. As a result, they will embolden those, including Trump, to riot again. The voting audit in Arizona will give rise to demands for recounts in Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. They will continue to ignore what is good for the country, instead opting to cater to the whims of a megalomaniac and his deplorable base. Hopefully, these actions will backfire. Lacking consensus, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi may elect to form a select committee on the insurrection, thereby eliminating Republican opposition, and finally get the answers the nation deserves. The voters will also have their say in the 2022 midterms. If they can see through the lies, separate fact from fiction, conspiracy theory from reality, courage from cowardice, the nation might finally be able to move forward once again. Now we need to take a little pause here, but don't go away. I'll be right back with some closing comments. Thanks, guys, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you'll come back on a regular basis. You regular listeners know that we provide narrations like this of commentary published almost every day on Not Fake News.biz. But we've expanded our offering to include newspaper interviews, and we're going beyond the world of politics for those, presenting guests and topics that I hope you find interesting, enlightening, and informative. Right now, we're streaming an episode about Dave Fleischer, who's embarked on a 15,000-mile journey across the United States in honor of his daughter, who passed away from a rare cancer, cholangiocarcinoma. Dave's visited with many who've been affected by this disease as he stops at some 18 communities named Hope. We'll be streaming an updated report with Dave on Friday, May 28, as he reports in from his first week on the road, exclusively to NFN Radio News. That's just another reason for you to follow NFN Radio News and not miss an episode. You never know who'll be showing up. Check out Not Fake News.biz, too, where you find new material just about every day by some excellent writers like Chris Waldron with perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member at NotFakeNews.biz. And of course, it's all free. Also, let your friends know about this podcast and about NotFakeNews.biz. Our goal is to be informative and entertaining as we comment on the latest developments in the news, with just a little lean to the left. Now, this is Bob Gaddy signing off for NFN Radio News and NotFakeNews.biz.